There's a very simple sif in Shulchan Aruch about Mishloach Manos and the mourner. But as you'll see, it's more complex than it appears at first glance. Lefum rihata. The sif in Shulchan Aruch is in Taf Reish Tzadi Vav Siv Vav, and it's source number 1, and it states simply as follows: Yesh Misha Omer Sheha'avel Chayev Lishloach Manos. There is someone who opines, Yesh Misha Omer, that an Avel has to send Mishloach Manos. Now, first of all, the Kaf HaChaim writes on this sif, he says, whenever you see the Machaber uses the term Yesh Misha Omer, it doesn't mean that he doesn't hold of it. He holds of it. But it means that it's a das yachid, it's not like something that a lot of people say, but because it's said by the Rosh, he holds that it's an important halacha. So Yesh Misha Omer. And the Ramah says, Aval ein sholchin la'avel kol yud beis chodesh. But that's as far as the Avel is concerned. The Avel has an obligation to send others Mishloach Manot, but others may not send Mishloach Manot to a person who's an Avel for 12 months in a situation for parents, which is the only time that Avelus is for 12 months. Okay? Now, Uchemoshe Yisboer B'Yoredeya Simin Shaf Shin Pei Hei Ayin Sham. And I underlined Ayin Sham. As will be explained in Yoredeya, in Simin Shin Pei Hei, see there. Now, when the Ramah says see there, it's for a reason, and I'm going to show you the reason. And again, if you just look at the Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Berurah, you're not going to catch this. Okay? So, V'im ein ba'ir ela ha'avel im acher. Now, let's say there's only 2 Jews in the whole town. It's a 2-Jew town. And they got 2 shuls, right? Of course. I'm just kidding. So it's a 2-Jew town, and one of them is an Avel. So then, chayav lishloach la'avel kedei lekayim lishloach manos. So then you do have a dispensation. You should send the mishloach manos, even though normally you cannot. Okay? Ela imkein mochel ha'avel al manasa. Unless the Avel is moichel, and he says, because you can't give someone a gift ba'al korcham, you can't force someone to accept the gift. He doesn't want it, he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it. And then you're patur. But the mitzvah of the Mishloach Manos overrides whatever prohibition there is to send Mishloach Manos to an oven.
Are you Mekayim Mishloach Manos with 2 people? Yes. You got to give to 3, you got to give to 3 different people, and you have 2 Jews in your PS.
1 second, Robert. You just said something that is not la halacha. You just said that you have to give Mishloach Manos to how many people?
Is it 3?
No, it's to 1.
Is it?
It's to 1 person. Matanos levyonim to 2 people. Mishloach Manos to 1 person. 2 foods to 1 person. Matanos levyonim 2 gifts to 2 people. Okay, but you are getting it from somewhere. You've learned it somewhere. 3. We're going to get to that, but that's not mi'ikar hadin. Okay?
Maybe another issue for the future is why can't you just send it to the Avel's wife?
So there's another concern in halacha about male sending to females and vice versa. You could have your wife send it to his wife, and everyone's happy.
How could the Avel be moichel? I mean, it's your mitzvah. The fact that the Avel is moichel and says you don't have to send it to me.
Because you can't force someone to accept a gift. If he's the only Jew that is available for me to send Mishloach. Mishloach Manos is a mitzvah that is sources-mekorot. You need other people to be makayim the mitzvah. It's like the mitzvah of tzedakah. I can't fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah unless there's an ani. He's basically pulled himself out of the picture of recipients of Mishloach Manos. I got no one else to give to, so I'm patur from the mitzvah. That's the way the Shulchan Aruch looks at it. Now, before we look at any of the nosei kelim on the sif in Orach Chaim, because the Ramah has told us ayin sham, take a look in Yoredeya and Hilchos Avelus. That's my first destination. So we're going to skip down to source number 6 on the bottom of the page, and let's take a look. We're going to look at 2 seifim in Shulchan Aruch, and let's be medayik carefully. Avel aser b'she'ela shalom. So the first sif says that an Avel is not allowed to be shoel shalom, which we normally translate as greeting other people. He's not allowed to greet other people. Ketzad, Shlosha Yamim Harishonim Eino Shol B'Shlom Kol Adam. So during Shiva, the first 3 days of Shiva, we know that in halacha, there are certain distinctions between the first 3 days of Shiva and the last 4 days of Shiva. So within the first 3 days of Shiva, when there's an intensified mourning process, he's not allowed to greet anyone. V'im acherim lo yadu shehu avel v'shalu bishlomo lo yashiv lahem shalom elo yodiem shehu avel. And if other people greet him, not aware that he's an avel or not aware of the halacha, he should tell them, I'm sorry, I cannot respond because I'm in avelus. Migimel ad shiva eno shoel, v'im acherim lo yadu shehu avel v'shalu bishlomo meishiv lahem. From day 3 to 7, from day 4 to 7, I should say, or from day 3 to 7, really, because we say mixas hayom kekula. So then, he's not allowed to greet people, but if someone else turns to him and say, hey, how you doing? He's allowed to respond. Mishiva ad lamid, shoel bishlom acherim shehim shruyim b'shalom, ve'en acherim shoelim bishlomo. From day 7 to day 30, he's in the shloshim period now, so he's allowed to greet people who are immersed in peace, which needs to be unpacked. We're not going to deal with that tonight, but other people may not greet him. The kol shekain shemeshiv lemisha shoel bishlomo, but he's allowed to respond. Since he's allowed to initiate a greeting to others, certainly he's allowed to respond to others. La'achar lamed yom harehu kisha'ar kol adam. But that's during Shloshim. After Shloshim is over, says the Machaber, he's allowed to greet everyone normally. But that's only true for other relatives. But for a mother or a father, you're allowed to greet other people after Shiva, even during Shloshim. But other people may not initiate a greeting to the Avil for the entire 12 months. Now, have you ever had that experience where you've known someone who's in Avelus? Have you refrained from greeting them? Have you ever been in the Yud Beis Chodesh and people have refrained from greeting you? Well, sure, because you daven at a big shul, because people refrain from greeting other people all the time, right? But I don't think it's because of avelus per se. I just think it's because sometimes people are a little shy or a little unfriendly, whatever the reason. But to bedafka be makbid on this halacha because of Yud Beis Chodesh, have you ever heard of such a thing? Do you ever experience such a thing?
It's the way to behave in the house.
What's that?
It's the way to behave in the house of the Orville.
We're not talking about Shiva. We're talking about the 12-month period. The Machaber says that during the 12-month period for a parent, you're not supposed to... Here, Fred's in 12 months. Fred, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. See, I just violated the halacha.
Not supposed to ask me how I am?
Yeah, that's what we just learned in the Shulchan Aruch. So, good. Thank you for being our live example. So why did I do that? So let's take a look at the Ramah. So the Ramah says, "Ume'achar sha'asr b'she'ela shalom, kol shekein sha'asr laharbos bidvarim." Since you're not allowed to greet a person who's in avelus, you're certainly not allowed to enter into conversation with them. In other words, leave them be. Person who's in Yud Beis Chodesh, you leave them be. You don't initiate greeting, you don't initiate conversation, no kiddush club, no schmoozing, nothing. Leave them be. Now, continues the Ramah, V'im ose lechavod rabim, kegon sherabim boim lenachamo, mutter lomar lahem, lechu levatechem leshalom, de lechavod rabim shari. But if you're doing it, if you're conversing with them in order to show kavod to the masses, so to the public, so then it's okay. So let's say people would come in to be menachem avil, whether it's during Shiva, during Shloshim, during Yud Beis Chodesh, you would be allowed to extend to everyone a bracha. That's the exception to the rule of she'ela shalom for an avil. Now, here's the last thing which I underlined. V'yesh mikilin ha'idna b'she'ela shalom ha'avil la'achar lamed ve'ein ta'am lahem. So there are people who are mekel today, which the Ramah is writing in the 16th century. It says people today are mekel, that after Shloshim, everything is off. I mean, there's no restrictions at all, and you're allowed to initiate a greeting to a person who's in Yud Beis Chodesh, but they don't really have a valid reason. Im lo sheyachalku lomar shezeh ma she'anu noagim lo mikri she'la shalom shebiyamehem. He says, I don't really think that there's a legitimate basis for this, unless you could possibly argue that the way we greet people today is not the same way that we used to greet them in the olden days. Now, he's speaking in the 16th century. Today, we're even more casual than we were in the 16th century. So just by analogy, if you were greeting someone on the street in the 16th century, you would remove your chapeau, and you would say, Herr Meister, Shalom Aleichem, Usmach l'rayid, so nice to see you. How is the wife and children? How is the family? Put the hat back on, button your coat, continue walking. Today it's, hey, how's it going? And then, it's much more casual. So I think what the Ramah might be saying is, comparing ourselves to the 16th century, the Ramah is saying we're much more casual than what they were in the times when this halacha was originally codified, in the times of the Rishonim or the times of the Gemara, where She'ela Shalom, which was a much more formal and elaborate process. And therefore, since we're more casual in society today, we make less of a big deal out of She'ela Shalom today than it used to be. I can only imagine what they used to do, the elaborateness of that process. So therefore, says the Ramah, that's why people are makel today, and they're sholol b'sholom. And I believe that this is what people are samech on, to converse and to shmooze with people who are in Yud Beis Chodesh. Otherwise, otherwise we'd be in flagrant violation of this halacha, right? Now, we're going to skip one sif. We go now to sif Gimel in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch writes now, Makom shenahagu lio sholem b'shalom b'shlom avelum b'shabes shoalim. There are different places where the minhag is different on Shabbos and Yontif as well. Some places have the minhag that since there's no avelus b'far hesya, there's no public avelus, even during Shiva on Shabbos, you're allowed to greet a mourner regularly on Shabbos, just like you would greet a regular person. And because of Harambam, sheha'aval nosein shalom l'chol adam b'Shabbos shehu michlal dvarim shebefar hesya. And the Rambam writes that in the same vein, since there's no avelus b'far hesya, an avel can even initiate greetings on Shabbos. So there's nothing wrong with going over to an avel and saying good Shabbos to them, and saying how are you, and so forth. And an avel can even initiate it. Why is this all relevant to our discussion? She'ela Shalom. Because now we're going to get to the Ramah at the end of Sif Gimel. So the Ramah writes, Va'asa lishloach manos la'avel al aviv v'imo kol yud beis chodesh va'afilu b'Shabbos b'makom shenagu shelo lishol b'shlomo b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to send gifts to an avel when he's in his yud beis chodesh for a parent. You're not allowed to send gifts to an avel. We're not talking about Mishloach Manot, we're just talking about regular Manot. Food gifts, a book, a bottle of wine, whatever it is. And this is true even on Shabbos, if the minhag hamakom is to not greet mourners on Shabbos. But what can we infer from this? But if the minhag is to greet mourners on Shabbos, then you're allowed to send him gifts. If you live in a place where the minhag is to greet mourners on Shabbos, then you're allowed to send gifts to a mourner on Shabbos. Okay? Does anything jump out at you? Let's just review what we've seen so far. Let's just review what we've seen. What we've seen, number one, is that an avel is not allowed to initiate greeting, and you're not allowed to initiate greeting to an avel. But then there's a controversy as far as whether that extends beyond shloshim or not. The Mechaber says that it applies for all Yud Beis Chodesh, and the Ramah says that there is a minhag to be mekel after shloshim, that you're allowed to greet people. That an avel even is allowed to initiate greeting, and you're allowed to, and the others are allowed to initiate greeting and shmooze with him and treat him like a regular person. Sif Gimel told us that there's an equation between gift giving and she'ela shalom. That if it's permissible to be shoel bishlom and avel on Shabbos, if that's your minhag of the minhag hamakom, so then it's permissible to give him gifts. If it's not, if the minhag is not to be mekel with she'ela shalom for an avel on Shabbos, then you're not permitted to give him a gift.
Why can I give
So
you-
gift giving is equated with she'ela shalom. Put it all together, all right, and tell me, why do you think the Ramah said, ayin simin shin pei hey? What is going on? First of all, Robert, what did you want to say?
Well, I'll ask it after.
Okay. Laser?
Well, first,
Shepeh, isn't it? The Shin
I-
Pei Hey is
that's a
without-
separate issue, in fact, you can't give gifts on Shabbos.
Interesting question. If manos are food parcels, so you're allowed to give food parcels as long as they're meant to be consumed on Shabbos. Yeah.
So in Hilchos Korban, he's alluding to that there might be a heter. And if you want to be ma'ayin, go to Hilchos Avelos and you'll find it.
And what is the heter laser?
Since today we are Dorish B'Shalom on Shabbos with people, then you would be able to give. So that which I said in Hilchos Megillah.
In Hilchos Avelos.
In Hilchos Megillah, I said you cannot.
You cannot, the whole 12 months.
12 months. So now I'm telling you, by the way, if you're ma'ayin there, you might find a
If you're in there, you might find a heter, because over there in Hilchos Avelos, I write
Right.
that sometimes we hold that there's a heter, some people have a heter after 30 days to be shoel bishlom the avel, and if it's okay, and no, not even on Shabbos, but after 30 days, after shloshim, and if you're allowed to be shoel bishlom and avel, that's equated to giving gifts to an avel. So it could be that what the Ramah is alluding to is that even though he quotes the Maharil explicitly as saying for the entire 12-month period, you're not allowed to give Mishloach Manos to the Avel,
That was my question.
but if you take a look in Hilchas Avelos, you see that there are some who are noeg she'ela shalom after 30, and therefore Mishloach Manos would also be permitted after Shloshim.
Yeah, but he's far more
Face value, okay? Now let's take a look at the machlokas between the Magen Avram and the Taz in Orach Chaim. Let's go back, okay? Source number 2. Magen Avram. B'yoredeya simin shin pei hey ayin sham. Right, the Ramah said, take a look over there. Nearly, it would seem to me, shekavanasu lahoros de b'makom she'ino again avelus b'purim. He says, if the minhag where you live is that there's no avelus on Purim, that's our minhag today, that in Avel, even if he's in the midst of Shiva, does not wear torn clothing on Purim. Only Dvarim shebefarhesia are noheg on Purim. So therefore, if you live in such a place where that's the minhag hamakom, it's part of Shiva, just like Shabbos, but you don't overtly show avelus. Imkain dino kishabbos umuter lishloach b'makom shenagu lishol bishlomo ayin sham. Just exactly as Laser had said, that if Purim has the same din as Shabbos, that Dvarim shebefarhesia are not noheg on Purim, just like on Shabbos, so then if you live in a place where the minhag hamakom is to greet the mourner regularly on Shabbos, even during Shiva, so then it would be okay to send Mishloach Manos to the mourner. So that would be, that the Magen Avram is suggesting that even during Shiva, it could be that it would be permissible to send Mishloach Manos to the Avel, because we're not noheg prohibitions on She'ela Shalom. If we're not noheg prohibitions on She'ela Shalom, then there's no restriction on Manos. There's no restriction on sending him food parcels as well.
But isn't that reading quite a bit into the Ramah?
Yes, it is.
Maharil, because he's
Well, no, he's not reading it in the Maharil. The Maharil would disagree, but the Ramah is saying we can disagree with the Maharil if the minhag hamakom is different. In the Maharil's makom, the minhag was that there was no She'ela Shalom on Shabbos. And as a result, the Maharil paskined that for all Yud Beis Chodesh, you can't send Mishloach Manos to the Ava.
Yeah, but he also quotes his heter under Chuvas Maharil. He quotes under it. That's his source.
Who says this? Where, I'm sorry.
The last line.
The Ramah.
B'makom shnagu shol lishol b'shlomo b'Shabbos Chuvas Maharil. No, he said that's the chumrah.
That's the Chumrah, not the heter.
That's the chumrah, not the heter. Yeah, that's the chumrah. Okay. Comes along, so the Magen Avram, would you agree, is very liberal, based on what we've just seen in the Magen Avram? The Magen Avram would say that based on our minhag, where we greet the Avil on Shabbos, you can now go ahead carte blanche and send him Mishloach Manos, if that's the minhag hamakom.
So the only question on that is, in his wording, he says she'ein noagin avelos b'purim. If it was just the issue of sheila shalom, it wouldn't be totally on this idea of why you noeg avelos on Purim. In other words, he's alluding to maybe something else.
He says, Dino kishabas umutter lishloch b'makom shenohagu lishol b'shlomo.
Correct, at the end. But what does he mean, she'ein noagin avelos b'purim? In other words, is it possible, and I don't know the halacha, in other words, what is the halacha of avelos on Purim? In other words, the person during Shiva, is it suspended? So, I don't know.
So the answer is that there's different minhagim. It's brought down in the Sfarim in Hilchos
That's what I
Avelos.
assume. And therefore, if you're of the opinion that you are noheg not to have avelos, you suspend that person, then so too you would suspend, you would allow that person to receive.
Right. Correct.
In other words, it's not
so
totally on so much on the Sheila Shalom, it's totally on the initial machlokus of whether
it's totally in both, because
but maybe not.
If you hold that Purim is like Shabbos, if that's your minhag, that Purim is like Shabbos, so then you have to go to the other the variants of minhag. So there are those who have a minhag that on Shabbos we're not shoel b'shalom, and some minhagim where we are shoel b'shalom.
Right, but you could have a person who is noeg shalom on Shabbos during Shloshim, but for Purim.
But Purim is machmir. Right. You need to have both switches on.
Right.
Correct. Got it. Taz, source number 3. U'chemoshe chasav b'yoredeya. So the Taz writes a little bit differently from the Magen Avram. Take a look. The keven shekasav sham Ramah, demin hagenu lahakel b'she'ela shalom, muter lishloach lo manos gamkein. He first starts off saying, like the Magen Avram, that since the Ramah writes in Yoredeya that it's our minhag is to greet a mourner on Shabbos, therefore we can send gifts to him on Shabbos, and therefore send gifts to him on Purim as well. Aval ein nira lismoch al zeh im lo she'ha'avel ani. But the Taz concludes with a chumrah, and he says you should not rely on this heter unless the avel is an ani, in which case you can count it as matanos levyon. But if you cannot count it as matanos levyonim, so then you should not rely on this heter to send mishloach manos to a person who's an avelus, regardless, it would seem, whether it's during Shiva, Shloshim, or Yud Beis Chodesh. Now, let's take a look at the Levushei Srad, who is Rav, I think it's David Shlomo Eibeshitz, if I'm not mistaken. He's a Hasidic Rav who lives at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century. And he is a commentary in the Shulchan Aruch, wrote a very important commentary in Orach Chaim. He says, Dino keshabis, didin manos kedin she'ela shalom. And the reason is because gifts have the same status as greetings. And he's quoting, he's just going on the Magen Avram. V'kasav sham b'yoredeya b'sif gimel, de b'shabes yesh makomos matirin she'ela shalom la'avil, v'yesh nagu iser. He's just really unpacking the Magen Avram. That the Magen Avram's opinion is that since Purim is like Shabbos in many places, if your minhag is to greet a mourner on Shabbos, you can greet a mourner on Purim, and therefore you can also give him mishloach manos. V'hu adin kan bepurim dedino gamken keshabbos linyan avelus shari manos b'makom shenogim heter she'elo shalom b'Shabbos. So he's just really, just as I've said, he's explained the Magen Avram completely. Very logical. But let's see, what's the Taz's chumrah? Aval HaTaz, this is in the middle of the Levushei Srad. Sif Katan Gimel, Haven Kavanas Ramah Kan, Al Masha Kosav Ramah B'Sif Aleph, Deha'idna Mikilin B'She'ela Shalom La'ovel Achar Shloshim. He says the Taz did not understand the Ramah that way, that he's equating Purim to Shabbos, but rather he understood the Ramah as saying that there are many people today who are mekel that after Shloshim they regularly greet the mourner. Ve'ein tam lazeh. Imlo shenomar d'sheila shalom shenonogim lo mikri sheila shalom shebiyameyim ayin sham. And what did the Ramah say in Sif Aleph? He said, I don't really know a legitimate reason why people feel free to greet a mourner after his shloshim when he's mourning over a parent, because there's no really legitimate reason for it unless you want to argue that the way we greet people today is more casual than the way they would greet them in the olden days. And therefore, because the Taz understands that that's what the Ramah is referring to, not Sif Gimel, that Purim is like Shabbos, but rather he's saying, take a look in Yoredeya, where I talk about how people are makel today about She'ela Shalom in general, even on a weekday after Shloshim. He says, V'lachein hukshela hataz dibamano lo shayach heter zeh. So the Taz says, you can't say that just because people are makel today about She'ela Shalom after Shloshim, then you can automatically apply that to giving Mishloach Manos. What's the whole rationale for people to be more lenient today in She'ela Shalom? It's more casual. It's not as serious as it was in the olden days. But can you make that argument with sending people gifts? Gift giving has the same sort of gravitas or sort of friendship building as it did back in the old days. You send a person a bottle of wine in the old days, send a person a bottle of wine today, it's the same thing, is what the Taz is arguing. It's one thing to say that there was more formality and it involved more exertion to greet someone properly in the old days. And today we greet people more casually, so we're not so machmir in the halacha. But to make that division when it comes to giving people gifts, that division does not apply. And therefore the Taz says that even though the Ramah pointed out that there's a distinction to be made when it comes to She'ela Shalom that I point out in Yoredeya, that we're makel on She'ela Shalom after 30 days, the Taz says, but I don't see how that applies to gift giving, to giving Mishloach Manos. And lachein kosav she'ein lismoch al zeh v'chulei. And therefore, the Taz writes, you should not rely on this heter unless the recipient, unless the avel is an ani, is a poor person as well. Aval l'pirish hamagin avram asi shapir. The kavonas Ramah lahatir manos bepurim b'makomo shematirin b'shabbos she'ela shalom la'avel. But the Magen Avram is not referring back to Sif Aleph and Shin Pei Hey. The Magen Avram says that the Ramah is referring back to Sif Gimel in Siman Shin Pei Hey. In Sif Aleph, the Ramah was talking about this nebulous heter of generally She'ela Shalom to an Avel after Shloshim, which the Ramah says, I really don't know where it comes from. And since it's a nebulous heter to begin with, and the Taz says, and beyond that it's problematic, because even if you're going to make a distinction between how people used to greet each other in the old days and how people greet each other today, you can't make such a distinction with gift giving. And therefore I don't see what basis you have to be makel, is basically what the Taz is saying. But the Magen Avram reads the Ramah differently. He says the Ramah is not referring to what he wrote in Sif Aleph, he's referring to what he wrote in Sif Gimel. That Purim is like Shabbos. And on Shabbos, many people have a minhag to bishol bishlom the avel, and therefore you can be makel to send him gifts as well. And therefore, according to the Magen Avram, it's totally mutter to send Mishloach Manos to an avel. And therefore, if someone were to ask me on a practical basis, what's the halacha? Send Mishloach Manos to an avel? I would say, according to the Magen Avram, it's 100% okay. 100% okay, according to the Magen Avram. Taz is machmer.
How does he interpret what the Taz says, the minhagenu lahakel?
What do you mean?
He uses the words, he says, because Hashem Ramah did minhagenu, Ramah's minhag, our minhag is to be meichel.
You're right, he's paraphrasing the Ramah, because the Ramah writes, V'yesh mekilin ha'idna b'she'ela shalom ha'avel la'achar lamed. The Ramah lived in Krakow, and Mistama, he looked at people in Krakow and saw what they were doing. So that's why the Taz says, V'yesh mekilin ha'idna, means he says, that's minhagenu. You're right. It's not an exact quote. It's not an exact quote, but it's the same idea. Same idea. The Ramah looked around. He saw people were being makel and She'ela Shalom to an Avel after Shloshim. Okay. Now, what's interesting is if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, none of this is self-apparent unless you already had seen the primary sources. So we take a quick look at the Mishnah Berurah, and he writes that an avil is chayv in Mishloach Manos, Yud Zayin. Now, why is an avil chayv in Mishloach Manos? I find this to be very difficult. I mean, personally, on an emotional level, I find this to be very difficult. An avil is in the midst of his misery, his mourning, and to the point where no one's allowed to come close to him and greet him because we have to allow him to wallow in his sadness. And yet he's still chayiv to put together a basket of fruit or chocolates or whatever it is, and to send it out to at least one person. I mean, come on.
Is he defining the oven now in the 7 days or the shlosh?
Even in the 7 days. Look at the Mishnah Berurah. Afilu toch shiva. You're chayiv, he's chayiv in Mishloach Manos. Daha chayiv b'chol mitzvos ha'amuros b'torah. The kol shekain de chayiv b'matanos lavyonim. And why is an avil chayiv in Mishloach Manos? Because it's a mitzvah. Now, of course, it's not the Torah. Okay, good question. But you see at least an indication, the Mishnah Berurah is quoting from other Achronim, you see an indication here that Divrei Nevi'im have a status of Divrei Torah sometimes. And it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, so an avil can't absolve himself from doing a mitzvah.
Even if it's the first day?
Mashma, even if it's the first day. Now, an avil does absolve himself from the mitzvah of tefillin, right? So there you'd have to say that's an exception to the rule because we learned from a pasuk in Yecheskel that you have to remove your pe'er, right? But we don't have such a pasuk. We don't have such a dispensation for the first day of Avelus for an avil. And so you could also argue, but the first day of Avelus is the Oraisa, right? Mamash the Oraisa.
Can you look at it from your daily equate Shabbos to equate Shabbos and to talking to him, and Shabbos there's no Avelus, so therefore Purim he can give, because the Avelus doesn't come into...
Oh, can an avil? Well, an avil has to give mishloach manos even during the week if it's Purim.
Can we look at it as not an avil because it's really it equates to Shabbos and Shabbos is no avelus, so therefore he should be giving it. And there's no real reason to there is no avelus.
But you know, an avil even on Shabbos, we have to see is an avil allowed to be shoel bishlom chavero on Shabbos.
According to your there's no issues. We learned before earlier.
Yeah, right. You're right. You said in Sif Gimel that an avil is no saying shalom l'chol adam b'Shabbos.
Right.
He's allowed to say shalom to every person. So the Mishnah Berurah doesn't make note of that. That's an interesting point. Maybe that's part of the argument. Okay, let's Sif Katan Yudches Chayev l'shloach manos achein kol devar simcha lo yishalach. However, you're obligated to send mishloach manos if you're an avel, but you're not allowed to send something that is joyous in its presentation. In other words, you can't put like the clown sticker and pictures of the kids and candy canes and sweets and all of these other things. You give him a piece of bread, a tuna fish sandwich, whatever, you send, but you got to send something that's not going to be misameach. So, V'zel Lashon Sefer Chasidim, and the Sefer Chasidim writes, Misha meis aviv bepurim l'shana haba yishalach manos, after hu yartzeit, uva'oso shani yishalach mos, o basar la'aniyim rak lo tafnukim ha'asuyim l'simcha. That what you should, the Sefer Chasidim writes, you should only send mishloach manos to the poor, to fulfill the mitzvah of both matanos lavyanom and mishloach manos. And you shouldn't send stuff that's going to be misameach, just send something that a person who's poor can eat and really make use of. Aval ein sholchin la'aval, and in Sifkat and Yotes, the Mishnah Berurah writes, you're not allowed to send mishloach manos to an avel, afilu davar she'eno shel simcha, even if it's not something of simcha. V'ima avel hu ani mutal lishloach lamos afilu toch zayin de lo gara mitzdaka. But if the avel himself, of course, is poor, then it's okay. Sifkat and Chaf, Kol Yud Beis Chodesh, Hainu La'avivu V'imo V'lishak Rov of Toch Lamed V'atam Kedin Sheila Shalom Sha'asu Yud Beis Chodesh. And the reason why that you're not allowed to send all 12 months to an Avel is because, what? Like the Mariel says, you're not allowed to greet someone for all Yud Beis Chodesh, so therefore you're not allowed to send them Mishloach Manos. But then in Sifkat and Chaf Aleph, what does the Mishnah Berurah write? Uchmo She'yizboyer Biyoredeya Simin Shin Pei Kavanasa Lahoros de B'Makom Shenagu Lahakil Lishol Bishlomam Mutter Lishlach Lehem Manos Gamkein B'toch Yud Beis Chodesh Aval Lo B'Soch Shloshim Aval Lo Yishalchu Lo Minei Simcha. So Mishnah Berurah sort of hedges his bets a little bit. He says that in a situation where the minhag is to greet the Avel after 30 days, like the Taz had said, then it's okay to send Mishloach Manos to an Avel after 30 days. He's not going to be as makel as the Magen Avram, that even during Shloshim and Shiva you're allowed to send Mishloach Manos, because Purim is like Shabbos. But he will be makel to the point where he says, he's like sort of in between the Taz and the Magen Avram. According to the Taz, you should not be makel at all, unless the mourner is an ani. According to the Magen Avram, you can give to him even mitten shloshim, even mitten shiva, because Purim is like Shabbos. But says the Mishnah Berurah, we're going to go a little bit in between the two. Really, after shloshim, many people, like we saw in Sif Aleph and Shin Pei Hey, have a minhag to greet the Avel, even though he's the mitten Avelus Yud Beis Chodesh. Right? So if we're makel by She'ela Shalom, we can be makel on Mishloach Manos as well, but not during Shloshim. During Shloshim, you still shouldn't send. And then also, you shouldn't send him Minei Simcha, but send him Pashada stuff. Send him the tuna fish sandwich, don't send him the candy canes. Eli im kain mochel ha'abel denos. Okay, fine. Rabbi Isai, that's Sugya 1, what we've got in our hands. Okay? I want to take a look at a few things. First of all, since Robert raised the question, let's skip to source number 8. Source number 8 is Sefer Divrei Sofrim. I believe it's a 20th century Sefer, which I have at home, and it's Hilchos Avelos. And this commentary is going on Siman Shin Pei Hey. So he writes that an Avel is chayv lishloach manos bepurim, afilu toch shevet ha'chayv b'chol mitzvahs hamuras b'torah. Achein kol davar simcha lo yishaleach, v'chein lo yishaleach ela k'fi ha'chiyuv v'lo yoter. And an Avel should only send the minimum obligation, which is to how many people, Mishloach Manos? To one person. But during the rest of the year, an Avel is not allowed to send gifts to people because it's not a mitzvah. Now, take a look at the Emek Davar, which is by the same author, just it goes a little bit deeper, Sifkat and Nun Gimel. He quotes the Shailas Tshuvas, Megiddo, Siman Nun Ches, which is written by the Pri Megadim. And he writes that Tzarechiyim, the Maharshal b'Shem Maharamei Rotenberg Shehevi Habach Sof Siman Taf Aleph Kasav Lahedja Aval Hu Chayiv Lishloach Manos Lishnayim O Lishlosha B'nei Adam Ki Hu Chayiv B'chol HaMitzvos. Robert, you got support. You got support from the Bach and the Maharami Rutenberg, who says that an Avel has to send to 2 or 3 people, not just to one person. Okay? V'chein hu b'sefer haparnesim in reish samech tes u'v'maharil hilchos Purim. So the question is, v'harehu achiyav le'echad. But the obligation of Mishloach Manos you fulfill with even just one person. V'afilu hachi mutter l'shnayim o l'shlosha. How then could it be mutter to give to 2 or 3 people? U'mikol makom mashma she'ein laharbos yoser midai v'tzarech. He says it's mashma that you can't give too much, even though I'm giving you a heter to give to 2 or 3, but still not more than that. V'ayin mashakasav od b'birur halacha. I have another commentary called Birur Halacha. I'll explain it further. Ve'efsher, but he says perhaps we could explain as follows: the ikar mitzvahs mishloach manos hu lishloach l're'av hakrovim elav v'lo rak le'echad. It could be that the mainstay of the mitzvah, even though the minimum is to one person, but it's possible that the intended mitzvah of what you're supposed to be accomplishing on Purim is to give to your friends. Mishloach manos ish l're'ehu, even though it's written in the singular, which is how the Gemara derives it's only necessary to one person, but it means, in general, bring your friends closer on Purim. So give to all of your friends. Ela shiyotze afim shalach le'echad. But what? But if you only send to one, you're yotzei, b'di'evet. But lechatchila, the mitzvah is to give to all of your friends, which, of course, is very difficult in a community like ours. You'd have to invest thousands of dollars in Mishloach Manos if you wanted to give to all of your friends.
Does this include Purim cards or e-cards? Or is nothing to
I
do
don't
with
know.
that?
I don't know. V'lachein mutter la'ava lishloach af l'shnayim o shlosha meireyav. And therefore, maybe that's the reason why the Maram Rotenberg and the Bach felt that it was okay for an Avel to give to 2 or 3 people. Now, but then he brings from the Shiltei Giborim that it's only to 1 person, and therefore, Lamaisa, we're machmer that he only gives it to 1 person. Now, let's go on. Found an interesting analysis from a contemporary posek, source number 10, Mishnas Yosef, to a Rav Yosef Lieberman. I don't know if this is the famous congressman or not. But if it is, then my respect for Joe Lieberman has just gone up. Because in between running Congress, he has time to write a sefer. But I assume it's not the same one. In any event, he writes as follows. It's a much longer piece, but I just wanted to bring from the first part. B'shulchan aruch mevuar sheha'avel chayev lishloach manos kemo kol adam. The Shulchan Aruch says that an Avel has to send Mishloach Manos like anybody else, even though he's in the midst of his mourning, he's still chayiv in a mitzvah. V'lichora makom ashma lama lo yishalach. So lichora, what's the chiddush? What's the big chiddush? Of course he's chayiv in all mitzvahs. So why shouldn't he send? Hore kasav bebir shemoneh-esrei da Avel chayiv b'chol mitzvahs amuras b'torah. The Gra says, of course, he's got to do every mitzvah that's written in the Torah. And as Alan had argued, this is not exactly a mitzvah hamura b'torah, but yet that's what we're calling it. Va'od lefi mashen isboyer yesh b'mishloach manos beis ha'inyanim hamavu'arim. Now, he says, let's think about this. What does one accomplish when one sends mishloach manos? There's 2 things that you accomplish. Aleph, shemahana chavero laharvacha l'seudasa. The Trumas Hadeshen writes that one of the functions of Mishloach Manos is directly linked to another mitzvah, Purim, of Seudah. And so it's expensive to make a Seudah, so you're helping your friend fulfill the mitzvah of Seudah by sending him Mishloach Manos. That's one of the reasons for Mishloach Manos. So why would I think that an Avel should be exempt from that? And number 2, Beis Shemarbe al Yedei Zeh Ahava V'Reus Im Chavero. And this is from the Manos Halevi, who writes that by sending Mishloach Manos, you're increasing love between 2 people. Ushneim einam asurim la'avel, da'atu ha'avel pater me'v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. So his argument is, why should an avel be pater from that? Is he not still obligated to the mitzvah v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? Now, what he's conveniently ignoring is that an avel is not allowed to do sheila shalom. Now, isn't sheila shalom under the rubric of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? And yet he's not allowed to engage in that. So it's a little bit, his language is a little bit strange. He does jog his memory later on in this essay and says that there is, he acknowledges that it's linked to She'elah Shalom. But at least for now, let's see what he says. V'tzarech lomar sheyesh b'mishloach manos od inyan shlishi. And so we would have to suggest that there's a third thing that you accomplish. So the first thing is you help a person make a su'udah. The second thing is you increase friendship. And what's the third thing that you accomplish with Mishloach Manos? So he writes, he says, V'hu she'etzem inyan ha'mishloach manot hu chelak misimchas Purim, hein l'sholeach v'hein l'mekabel. You increase simcha. Both the giver is happy that he's giving, and the recipient is happy that he's receiving. And as we know, it is always better to give than to receive. But both of them have simcha as a result. כאשר שולחים מיני שמחה חפצים יפים ומעדנים הנחמדים למראה המשמחים לב שולחים ומקבליהם. That these are things that give joy when you send someone a parcel that is colorful, that has delectable things that make a person smile when they receive the package. You all know what we're talking about, with the stickers and the colors and the candy cane and all of these other things. They make you happy. So when you send someone, if you send them a tuna fish sandwich, maybe they're not going to be so happy. But if you send them mamtakim, like really nice things, So I may love you because you sent me a tuna fish sandwich. I have something to eat now for my Suda, but the happiness is when it's mamtakim. So b'lachein kasav hamagin Avram dechol devar simcha lo yishalach uchmo shekasav b'sefer chasidim sheyishalach mos o basar la'aniyim rak lo tafnukim ha'asuyim l'simcha. V'im kein ha'kamashmalan sheb'dvarim shenim shel simcha enim esamchim oso kol kach v'chayev lishloach. So therefore, that's the rationale, is that an Avel is chayev in helping other people make a Suda. Despite the fact that I'm an Avel, I have to help you make your Suda. I'm supposed to increase love and friendship, even though I can't inquire as to your welfare. I still have an obligation to increase friendship and kinship with my fellow Jew. Okay? So those are the things that I can accomplish as an Avel. I just can't give you things that will make you happy and will make me happy. Now, take a look. We don't have running out of time. Take a look at this little snippet from the Sefer Chaye Moshe, or of Moshe Sklars. Ein sholchem la'avel, ayin mishnah brura de lefi hatam she'ein sholchem mishloach manos la'avel mishum dahavi ki she'ela shalom. He says, take a look at the Mishnah Brura. He says, if you understand that the reason why you're not allowed to send Mishloach Manos to an Avel is because it's equivalent to greeting him, Im kein b'makom shelo noagu avelus b'purim u'muter b'sheila shalom dedino kishabis im kein huadin demuter lishloach lo manos. So like the Magen Avram says, he quotes the Magen Avram, and if it's a place where the minhag is to greet the Avel, so then you're allowed to send a Mishloach Manos. Whether it's after Shloshim, like the Ramah had written in Sif Aleph, that people are makel after Shloshim, or whether you learn like the Magen Avram, that since Purim is like Shabbos, even before Shloshim, you're allowed to send Mishloach Manos. Omnam, however, yesh shekasav hatam she'en sholchin la'avel kevin sheish lo simcha mizeh ulefizeh ein lahakel bazeh b'chol ofan. But there's another reason why you shouldn't send Mishloach Manos to an Avel, and that's because whenever he receives a gift, he gets simcha from it. And according to that reason, you shouldn't send it to him at all, because he's going to find it on his doorstep, he's going to have simcha, and you're not supposed to give simcha to an Avel, just like you're not, even if though we allow you to greet him, but to give him that active simcha, you're not supposed to do. I have difficulty with this shita, I'll be honest with you, because usually people have more simcha giving than receiving. I don't know, maybe it depends on the person. I'm not sure. You'd have to make a calculus. I can certainly understand not sending to the Avel a chayfetz shel simcha, like, with the candy cane, right? But to say not to give him at all because anything that you sent him will give him simcha, I'm not so sure that I would necessarily agree with that. My tendency would be to be more makel in this halacha in general. Now, take a look. For the last couple of minutes, I want to just look at two quick what-ifs, okay? The Nitei Gavriel presents the following what-if in source number 12. Im echad lo yada shechavero avel v'sholach lo manos muter lachzor v'lishloach lo. Now, if a person did not know that his friend was an Avel, and he gives him Mishloach Manos, so muter lachzor v'lishloach lo, then the Avel, even though he's already fulfilled his mitzvah, is allowed to reciprocate by giving back to the person who gave. Now, kein nira kivin she'ikar hatam she'en lishloach manos midin she'ela shalom, ule'inyin she'ela shalom kaimelam b'shulchan aruch siman shin pei heisif alaf dim lo yado shehu Avel v'shalom b'shlomo meishiv lahem ayin sham v'hu adin bazeh. So he says the whole reason is we're linking it to she'ela shalom. And an Avel normally is allowed to respond to she'ela shalom, at least if it's not in the first 3 days of Avelus, like we learned. So therefore, since he's allowed to respond, he's allowed to reciprocate with Mishloach Manos as well, even though he's already fulfilled the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. There are other tshuvas which ask the question, if I accidentally sent Mishloach Manos to an Avel, have I fulfilled the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos? And I think most poskim say, b'di'evid you are yod, say similar kind of question. Now, number 13. Mahadin ka'asher adam sholach mishloach manos ulam heim ne'evdu o nignavu baderech Ha'im yatsa yedei chavas mishloach manos o shelo yatsa yedei chavasa. I sent a UPS package to my friend from Mishloach Manos to arrive at his doorstep on Purim Day. There's a thief in the neighborhood, because I got my video doorbell, and we notice that a thief came and stole the UPS package from my doorstep before I had a chance to take it. Was my friend Yotzei the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos because he sent it to me even though I never got to open the package?
No.
So, what do you say, Alan?
No.
No. Why?
Well, because
Prove it from our sugya that we're learning.
There's no simcha. The guy didn't receive it.
So prove that there has to be simcha to the recipient. Where do you know? Where do you know that there has to be simcha to the recipient in order for the giver to be yotzei?
Isn't that how we learned
That's
to
what you're saying.
Yeah, isn't that the whole thing that we said from the beginning?
In 11.
It's all messed up.
Isn't that why the law has to send it himself?
Okay, so from the Shilas Uchuvas,
So that's the exact question that the Manos Halevi discusses. He says, what's the nafkamina between the reasons? In his shtickle there, right?
yeah,
He discusses what's the difference between the two reasons. In other words, if I give
whether it's because of Sheila Shalom or
whether it's because of camaraderie or because of, in other words, or to be marba the simcha.
oh, you mean this Yosef Lieberman? This,
No. The Manos Halevi. He quotes the Manos.
who quotes the Manos
The
Halevi?
Manos Halevi has
says-
there a question. He says, what's the nafkamina between these two reasons? So the difference is, if you bring a person on Purim a suit, are you yotzei the mitzvah?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, if you're going to say that the mitzvah is to enhance friendship, camaraderie,
Friendship. So then you've been yotzei,
you'd be yotzei.
right? But if it's to help him with the suda, you're not yotzei. So you have to say that. You have to say that both issues are true because we know halachically you can't be yotzei by sending him a suit. Anyway, the Shilas Uchuvas Pulas Tzaddik, I don't know who that is, writes as follows: Gaonu zenu maharitz zatzal kosav she'en lihistapek bedin zeh ubarur shelo yatsa yedei chovato. You're not yotzei, like Alan said. What's the raya? Raya lidvar of hevi agon maharitz mimasha kosav b'shulchan aruch yesh mi shomer sha'avel chayiv lishloach manos. V'hosif al zeh harama b'shem maharil aval ein sholchan la'avel kol yud beis chodesh. The maharil says you cannot send to an aval for the first 12 months. Umavur medivrei harama shemitzvas mishloach manos nitkena kedei laharbo simcha. The whole mitzvah of Mishloach Manos was to create simcha for the recipient. V'lachein avel she'en lo laharbos b'simcha ein sholchem lo Mishloach Manos. Im kein barur hadavar she'im lo higia ha-Mishloach Manot el ha-mekabel mishum shenevdu o nignavu baderech hanosein lo yatsa yedei chova. So if the item got stolen and the recipient didn't have simcha from receiving the gift, then there was no mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. Shaharei matarat ha-mishloach manot laharbot simcha lamekabel v'lo nitrabta ha-simcha v'lachein lo niftar b'hachi. The last thing I want to show you before we break for the night is something from Rav Pinchas Korach. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. Minhagei Teiman. He has a whole sefer on Yemenite minhagim. And I found this to be very, very relevant. There is a din that you're not allowed to send manos. We saw that in Shulchan Aruch. You're not allowed to send food parcels to an oven, right? What do you and I do in violation of this halacha, Cyril?
Shiva meals.
During Shiva, we bring over meals. It's mamish, the time when we send meals to a person the most in our lives, is we send it to the oven. So why aren't we in violation of the very basic halacha that ein sholchin manos la'avil? You're not allowed to do that.
But could he be giving it to somebody within the household that he is?
Yeah, but the question is,
Acting on behalf?
Isn't that
okay, so maybe you'd have to argue that the way around it is you send it to the kid, or you send it to the wife, or the husband of the avil. However you're going to argue.
In nafkamina is, there's one thing giving the food is a gift as a matana. Here, you're giving it so they can have breakfast or lunch or dinner.
Okay, take a look at source number 15. With this we will finish. V'hinei matzui sheyesh menachamim shekesheboim levet ha'avelim notnim la'avelim matana shel sikum kesef v'chayotze bo shehu siyua kaspi lemimun hotzaot shel shivat yimei ha'avelut shtiya v'chayotze bo. he says that they're in our communities, they don't even just give food, they even give money. They put a little money in the pushka in the person's house so that they can pay for the food over the shiva. V'nira pashut de'ein zeh begeder kabbalat matana. Ela ezra kaspit shemuteret afilu b'makom she'asur b'she'ilat shalom. Uchemo shekosef b'kaf hachayim simen tov kuf nun dalet sifkad nun sadi aleph le'inyan tisha b'av d'shari b'chai gavna. When you provide someone with financial support that they can eat, that's not in the category of the prohibition of sending them manos. V'chein kosef b'orach hashulchan b'sif yud tafresh tzadi, I'm not sure what b'samach yud tafresh, b'simin tafresh tzadi vav sifkat and ches ayin sham. V'shuv ra'isi shekvar nishal b'chein zeh b'shaylas utshuvas shevet halevi chelak beis simin reish vav odos haminag shenom b'chutz la'aretz. This is a minag in chutz la'aretz, he writes. Because I guess it's a mishagas that we have in America, right? In the North America with the mishagas with the food. Laseis la'avelim chavila shal minei ma'achal u'mashkeh im ein bazeh mishum nesinas manos la'avelim v'im ein lachush gam lechukei hagoyim shenogim sham kach. So where did this minhag come about that we send meals to the Avel? So first of all, it's a goyish azach. It's imitating its chukos hagoyim. And second of all, he says, what about the prohibition of sending manos to an avel? And skip the parentheses. Ve'eshiv sham v'zel l'shono. Derehitas loshen hashas gittin nun beis amad aleph v'chol davar she'en lo kitzva she'en apotropos rashai lahotzi mishal yisomim lasuye tanchumei avelim mashma de tanchumei avelim rogil lios bar hotzoas kesef kipidyon shvuyim. He says the language of the Gemara seems to imply that an apotropos is not allowed to produce out of the estate of the orphans things that are for comforting the mourners. V'doichak lomar de b'seudas havra'a davka ayri umashme rehitas hashas de darkam lahotzi kesef al nichum avelam kematanos hanal chavila maichel uchedoyme. That this was it seems from the Gemara that this was a common practice, that you would send gifts of food to an avel even in the times of Gemara. Uchamedumani shekeinagu bekam bedinos meminhag toivim. The hageder bazeh kolshu mishloach derech manos dumya de mishloach manos bepurim vaday asur. And so the bottom line is like this: if you're sending it as a gift like mishloach manos to make the person happy, so then it's certainly asur. V'chol shehu lokeach ito b'shah shehu menachem o shalech b'shah shehu ba lenachem kenira hayu noagim me'olam uchamuvan asur lasas kol davar b'tzuras chukei hagoyim ad kan l'shona. He says, if you're bringing food with you when you're going to make a shiva visit, or to, so then that's the minhag that we can justify, because you're not doing it to make the avel happy. You're doing it because people will be visiting the avel, they'll be coming from out of town. I never really appreciated the food that's at the shiva house until I came from out of town. I flew in and flew out for just a couple of hours. And there was a bagel there that I could have. You don't think of it, but it's not for the people that are visiting from the neighborhood. They don't need the food that's brought to the shiva house. It's the people that are schlepping from long distances and don't have time to go to get something to eat. So for them, it's taka, a benefit. And if you're doing it so that people will have something to eat when they're coming to as visitors, and that the family will have something to eat because there's no time for them to prepare the meal, then for sure it's mutter. The only thing that's asur is to send it begeder mishloach manot, to send it as like a food parcel that's going to be misameach. So just to wrap things up, bottom line is like this. We see that there are two inyanim in the prohibition of sending to an avel mishloach manos. One is that it's begeder she'ela shalom. The Ramah equates she'ela shalom to giving food parcels to an avel. So whenever it's usher to be shoel bishlomo, it's usher to send him gifts. And therefore, that's where we have the ambiguity in the halacha of Purim, whether it's even betoch shiva, like the Magen Avram says it's mutter because Purim is like Shabbos, or like the Taz wants to argue that after 30 it would be okay, and like the Mishnah Berurah is mekel, right? And certainly, certainly like the Mishnah Berurah, you can certainly be mekel that after Shloshim you can send Mishloach Manos to an Avel, but you should still send a subdued Mishloach Manos. The second issue is that Mishloach Manos provides simcha. And we saw a difference of opinion in the poskim as to whether all Mishloach Manos generates that simcha or just the candy cane Mishloach Manos generates the simcha. So therefore, if you hold like the tuna fish sandwich does not generate simcha, that's why you should only send the tuna fish sandwich to the oven. But according to others, it always generates simcha. And as a result, if your objective is to generate simcha, then you shouldn't send it. If your intention is to feed the person mamish because they're so busy and they're availous, they don't have time to eat, then it's certainly okay.